it's nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. It's been how many months since March?
Many, several. And I don't think we've ever actually sat down to talk to each other, have we?
No,
like
never.
Not even say physically when we had classes together last semester.
No, I don't think so. Maybe when we were put in a group together in a class or something.
I don't think I recall if we ever like actually got put in a group together.
I don't think so either.
It was but I think because I think I remember the first time I heard of you was, say, I was trying to enter works to be judged in the writing contest.
Yeah.
In like 2019 or something like that. Yeah. And I kept seeing his name pop up, Gabriella Navas.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, oh, she's cleaning up. Who is that girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to talking about my work or anything, I'm very shy about it and don't really pat myself on the back too often. But I do enjoy the writing contests. So that was kind
of... As do I.
Yeah, they're fun, right? And that was kind of how I made connections with my professors, because I would have professors and they would be like, oh, like I heard about you from the writing contest and whatever. And it was so nice that the English department had that, because I feel like it just kind of built like a little community and everyone kind of got to know each other, even if it was just through each other's work, which I feel like is important.
Yeah. And I think I like slowly became more aware of you when we did we happened to have a couple classes together last semester.
Yeah.
It was contemporary English grammar and playwriting.
Yeah.
And then I think it was you around the time when there was the poetry circuit going around the state or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went to the reading that was held in the Morris Greenberg Center for Judaic Studies.
Yeah.
And I saw, oh look, that's Gabi. She's up there.
Yeah.
And then I heard you read your work. And I'm like, ooh, I want her to be my friend.
Well, I was honored when you asked me to be on the podcast. That was so cool. And I remember you were like helping with the mic situation. And
what happened was, like, I think I have a feeling no one had thought through if they were going to have a mic set up, or if they did. So like Dr. Grossberg walks in and I ask him like, hey, do you, I think I like appointed myself sound man.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I see this mic here, but like, how do you set this up? And like, oh, I see it's dead. I need to get I need to get batteries for it.
Yeah.
And I asked the front desk lady, I'm like, are there any batteries hanging around? I put them in, and then I decide to set up the microphone, go to on the side to the thing that controls the sound system for the room.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of like people reading, I see them maybe like struggling or not bothering with the mics, the microphone stand. Like, okay, I guess I'll just go help them and point it towards their face when they're in between people.
But you saved us, because the height difference between performers was, I remember being, quite significant. And I think the person who went before me was maybe a couple inches shorter than me, and then there was someone who was like 5 inches taller than me. So
and so after that, I was like, I want her to be my friend, and B, I was like, I would like to get her on the podcast.
Oh, I'm so honored.
But then I think what happened was, I think you took a leave of absence.
Yes,
afterward.
I did take a leave of absence. That was only supposed to extend the week before spring break and spring break itself, and then COVID happened and they never allowed us back. So my leave of absence got extended.
Like we had planned, or we're trying to plan to have you on the podcast.
Yeah. Like
by the time spring break was over, and then everyone got sent home.
Yeah.
And never saw each other basically.
So sad.
Yeah.
I think about it, and it was such again, I know it wasn't, a UHeart specific thing. People at colleges all over the country were going through this, but it just felt so, I don't know, there's this weird thing where you take a leave of absence and you are looking forward to coming back because you want to start fresh or whatever, or you just feel refreshed. And then to not get the chance to actually come back was particularly devastating. But I mean, I guess it did work out well.
Yeah, but I feel like at least on your end, you got to stay home, and you're like,
yes.
Okay. I mean, you probably had to like come back to like grab some things or something. But
yeah, they didn't even let me back on campus until I want to say like August to get my stuff. Yeah,
but like it really put a stake right through the heart of my podcast because the idea behind this when I first started was always in person live conversation kind of thing, because like that's what I prefer, and on some level it makes things quote unquote easier. And because it's like, hey, you want to be on? Okay, cool, let's meet here this time. Okay, bye. And then I'm the one setting up equipment and whatever, the other person doesn't have to worry about that. And I had I was trying to line up so many people when the pandemic hit, because I was trying to get like you and Dr. Striff, Dr. Grossberg. I mean, I just podcasted Dr. Grossberg at that time, but I was trying to get like Dr. Ely, Dr. Jones, Dr. Cinch again, and I had like upwards of maybe 7 or 8 people.
Oh wow!
Lined up, and then everything just it was like we don't want Benson's podcast to keep going. We want to kill it off.
But here you are thriving anyway, and that is a true testament to your work.
I mean, I wouldn't say thriving, but because like I have because I recorded like the last episode of that first batch, you could say, right on the day the WHO declared a pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I was wondering like, what do I do now? Like the entire idea was to talk to people in person. And then like I couldn't do anything.
I know.
So like I declared that season 1, and now with it's so I feel so uncertain about how exactly to proceed with this.
Right.
And like the first few people I podcasted for like season 2, you could say. Were friends of mine who I knew were like musicians and had recording equipment. And so like because I really didn't want to sacrifice sound quality for this. Right. And that plus like just being busy as a student. Like made me go bi-weekly, which was like I so did not want to do it.
Of course,
Like I so did not want to go remote, and I so did not want to say sacrifice like not being in control of the recording.
Right.
And now, like even now, I'm still not quite sure what I'm going to do moving forward.
Well, I mean, I think it's even if you did have to go bi-weekly, I feel like people would rather get you bi-weekly than not get you at all, because your podcast is just really cool. And again, it's honestly an honor to be here. But yeah, I think it's all about adapting, and I think you've been doing that really, really well.
I mean, some would say I don't know. There's something about like me talking to people who don't necessarily have a mic like this. Is like most people might not think it's a big deal, but like this is me really making the leap to see if it can work. You know what I mean?
Well, I apologize if this podcast comes out just like you talking to no one and they can't hear me, but on a special episode.
This very special episode of the podcast with Benson Tai. It is a podcast with Benson Tai and no one else. It's like, just him talking to himself.
Yes, it's like Ghost Hunters, but just you.
No, but because I think you've listened to a few, right?
Yes, I listened to actually the other day, one of my friends who transferred after freshman year, I had a class with her with Dr. Walling, and I sent her the episode with Dr. Walling, and we were kind of just like listening to it at the same time, and just we love Dr. Walling, who doesn't? But yeah, so I listened to that one, and then the one with Kira, and the one with Dr. Rivera.
Cool. And did you? I presume they were enjoyable.
Yes, they were. Especially Dr. Walling talking about pickles. That was particularly interesting.
Pickles, semicolons.
Yes. And
but did you? I put up another one I did with Kira just the other day. The other week.
I actually listened to it before our meeting today because I was just like, I wonder what Kira was talking about. She is how I came to learn about you, other than us meeting in class. But yeah, she's the coolest.
Yeah, and that as you may have heard from the recording, like that particular episode was we met in person to record.
Yeah.
And but we were. Like we had masks on. I wiped down a table, disinfected microphones and all that. Because I don't know, like when the fall semester started, I was really racking my brain on what to do, on how to proceed with the podcast.
Right.
And I even had the thought of, do I bring like a plexiglass barrier?
Yeah.
Into like the English department conference room, because that's like my spot to record.
Yeah.
And like what? But then, like, would that look weird? Me carrying a big ass plexiglass barrier from my car to the English department every time I have a session, and because like it's such I felt so conflicted.
Right.
Like, do I still want to meet in person to talk to people?
Yeah.
I still want to keep them safe, right?
Right.
And I even had like the passing thought of, say, recording with masks on.
Yeah.
But like I was real busy, and I was so apprehensive, and I didn't act on it until the last week of like in-person classes, when it was a lot, like I was only on campus for Thursdays.
Yeah. And
the Tuesday before my last Thursday on campus, I text Kira.
Yeah.
And I asked her, like, hey, I want to try this. Are you down for it? Because I just wanted to see if it can work.
Right.
And then, of course, Kira said sure. And we had a fun time talking.
Yeah.
And at least in that context where, like, I'm speaking to one of my peers and we're just, like, bullshitting.
Right.
It's like speaking into a microphone with a mask on is not bad. It's not that bad.
Yeah, no, the sound quality was really great for that past episode.
Yeah. And now I kind of wish I acted on it sooner, because I feel like it would have been great to say, have you on in person with a mask on. I wish I'd found out earlier, if that, like, tried it out earlier to see and found out that it can work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always spring semester. I could just be a returning guest. I'll be an alumna.
You just you're graduating this winter.
Yes, I mean, there's no ceremony or anything, so graduating, using that term very loosely.
They send you a diploma in the mail.
Yes, and I've seen horror stories of where it just gets like bent and stuff. So that's kind of, I feel like that would be an appropriate ending to my time at UHR, just a bent diploma. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just mean like the last 3.5 years have been. It just feels like a good metaphor. But yeah, so I finished officially last Wednesday, was my last final. And now I'm just waiting for final grades to be submitted, and then maybe it'll hit me then, but I don't know.
Are you, well, you just suggested next spring.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're because you're not from Connecticut?
No, I am from Jersey.
Oh, okay. And so what are you doing that would intimate your presence in Connecticut?
Oh no, I would just come to be a guest on your podcast. No reason other than that. I would make the trip. It would be worth it.
That's good to
yeah. Yeah. But how was this semester for you? How did it feel particularly like challenging or?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
because like being remote for most of your education for a semester is not fun.
Yeah.
And like I talked about this with Dr. Cinch the other week about how it's like part of, even though I guess it feels good to not have to drive an hour each way
Right.
like 4 or 5 days a week to be on campus.
Yeah.
Like there was a thing about being on campus.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
meeting up with friends of mine, talking to professors in the downtime, like just hanging around in
Yeah.
between classes, podcasting people, and
Yeah.
it made me not want to really do anything. It didn't feel like I was actually
Right.
like a student,
Yeah.
like I was actually doing anything. To the point where like I'm already I'm already a procrastinator, a pretty terrible one at that.
Yeah.
And then being remote just can't send my productivity like off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I pretty much like I was able to fare sort of well like on this tail end of the semester getting work
Yeah.
done, except for Dr. Cinch's class, which was Survey of American Literature 1,
Yeah.
and the final paper.
Oh goodness.
And like I mean like it's not hard. And intellectually speaking, I understand it's not hard.
Right. Right.
And like I know how to write a paper. I even like it's all crystal clear up here.
Yeah.
But then it was like the actual having to like apply myself and do it. I didn't like it was originally due last Thursday.
Yeah.
And I think, as you may know, Dr. Cinch allows students one extension of a week, no questions asked, to each student
Okay.
per semester. And so I was like, hey, I might use the extension, but this is like the very end, like it's due during exam week.
Yeah.
When exactly do you need grades in by? He's like, the following Tuesday.
Oh. Oh.
So I was like, okay, so not quite a week. So,
Yeah.
but like we'll see what happens. I don't submit it until like 2:30
Of course.
that Tuesday morning, because I just could not bring myself, for the longest time I could not bring myself to do it, because like I'm so over the semester.
Yeah. Yeah. I think being online definitely takes away from the experience, because I mean, I guess I can say this now because I've graduated and they can't do anything about it, but I I would skip class quite a lot in the past 3.5 years. And so, I wouldn't go to class, but there was still something about being on campus and being in my room and getting work done. And I mean, I wouldn't skip class to just not do anything. It would be either for like, I have a lot of health issues and all of that. But even when I skipped class, like I would always make sure that I did work just so I wouldn't feel as guilty. But there's just something about being on campus and, knowing that my friends were 5 minutes away from me. And if we wanted to just goof off and do whatever it was possible, and just being at home, it takes away from that. In a house with thin walls and, constantly running into my parents and, and back in the spring, my dad, he's a professor, not at UHart, but he was teaching. And so he is not that great with technology. And I was helping him teach his classes. Well, not teach his classes, but like do the Blackboard and all of that, Zoom and stuff like that. In the spring when I was still finishing up my classes and doing finals. So it was just so much happening at once. And for that to continue into the summer when I took summer classes and into this semester, I mean, it's plus grad school apps. Like it's all of this in the span of 4 months is ridiculous to me. But, capitalism, all of that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it seems like so long ago, like you might have heard me and Kira refer to it as the before times. And
yes, BC.
Like it's before COVID, BC. And I don't know. I'm not sure like how I'm gonna do this next semester, because it's like if it's gonna be, like from what I can tell, it's gonna be exactly the same.
Right.
Like remote where it can be, and like only for like very small classes or things where it only makes sense to actually meet in person to do stuff.
Right.
It's like I'm not like I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna cope.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy. And again, I feel, you know, I know that in some sense, I'm happy that I didn't take the semester off because I was able to graduate and get it all over with. But at the same time, I feel like the expectation that we were all supposed to work through this and not really like work through it, you know what I mean? Like just be productive and overly productive and do all of these things in the middle of a pandemic when people are, dying. I mean, that's the reality. And to just act like normal felt really sick to me. Like it didn't sit well with me back in March, and it doesn't sit well with me now. And, the vaccine is in the US already, so hopefully things are better, but it's going to be the same. Like you said, it's going to be the same next semester. So I'm worried for my people, I love my friends. I want them to be okay.
Yeah. And, part of my life is just like hanging out with my friends, meeting with people in person to podcast them. And it's, like the dearth of, other people's presence.
Right.
Even though I think of myself as a misanthrope, it's a select few people who I like. You get to pick your friends.
Yeah.
It's and being cooped up in my house most of the time, it's like it makes me feel so sedentary and unmotivated.
Yeah.
Like how am I, like you would think because I'm stuck at home all the time, I'm gonna be productive. I have all this time to do whatever, and then like I don't do it. I want to be productive, but then I don't, and then I feel even more bad because I'm thinking about how unproductive I am.
Yeah.
And it
it's an awful cycle. There were so many times when for like grad school stuff, I had to come up with a 30-page writing sample to submit to these schools. That was in addition to my regular course load. And there were so many times where I was like, you should be writing right now. Like you have the time. But I had just finished like a huge assignment for one of my classes. So the motivation wasn't there. And what I've noticed is like the being at home and having to work remotely, it made us all kind of reassociate our rooms, which is, for rest and for, just hanging out or doing whatever with work. And so my room started to feel like a classroom. And I hated that because my room was always, the place where I would go to in my house when I wanted to, be away from whatever. And, and so now that the semester is over, I find myself not wanting to be in my room at all, which is a new thing for me. Because all summer I was just like in my room doing, summer classes or just trying to get away from whatever. So it's just, I'm going to try to I don't know, I might just rearrange the setup of my room and hope that magically fixes my mental health and but yeah.
On some level for me that also happened because my room is basically where all my shit is.
Yeah.
Like all my instruments and my computer, my television and whatever. And this is it contains all the things that I do that I basically do anything with. So if I want to play music or if I want to surf the internet or if I want to watch TV or play video games or something. It's it's my room. And then but I also made it I set up my camera and my microphones to be remote for class or meetings or whatever. And then it's I'm spending even more time in my room.
Yeah.
Then most of my time was already spent here, just dicking around on guitar or whatever. And then now even more time because it's this is now my office, my home studio / office place, so that I can attend class, and it's like it's like I don't know. It makes me feel like I'm never getting out because I'm not, because the air is poison. But
Yes.
also like it drives me stir crazy.
Yeah.
And I start like literally spiraling in the middle of my room,
Yeah.
and thinking like, what the hell is anything? Where am I?
Exactly.
What is life?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I feel like there were definitely points in the semester where I was just like, what actually is the point? And again, it goes back to like the fact that we're living through history. Like, what is the point of doing anything if we're living through a historic event? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And then, of course, you have like my dad, who's just like, you just have to, keep going at it and keep doing it. And I'm just like, but how? Like, I don't know. I got out okay, like I was able to get everything done, but I feel like I'm just going to sleep for like a month now, like just no breaks, just hibernate. Like I need.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine, like, say what you're trying to do, which is apply to grad school in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
And like, I'm having enough trouble just being a student.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like on the bright side, I guess you're out.
Right.
But then on the other side, you're trying to go back in.
Exactly. And I feel like if I had stayed the extra semester, like if I wasn't able to graduate early, I probably wouldn't have applied to grad school because I would have needed that break between, between graduating and then going back into school. But I feel like since now I'll have until August or September, if I get in, then I will have time to just kind of rest and do the things that I couldn't really do the past 3.5 years when I was just working overtime trying to do all this. So we'll see if it's worth it.
Yeah. So from what I gather, you started at UHart in like what, 17 or something?
Yes. Fall of
7?
Yeah, fall of 2017.
So wait, so was this always the plan to graduate early?
No,
Or did it presented itself?
It presented itself, and I guess just going through the motions of college and particular life events happening that you're like, I want to get out as soon as possible, and it was made possible just based on workload and credits and stuff like that. And yeah, I was still able to complete my minor in Soc, so nothing was sacrificed in the process. So yeah, we'll see if it was worth it. It just feels so weird because most of my friends I've known since middle school and high school, and so the plan was always to graduate together and have celebrations in the spring. And I mean, of course, those things can still happen, COVID permitting, but. Yeah, I feel like that's why it hasn't hit me, because it's really hard for me to think of myself as an individual in that sense. I just think of myself as a whole, or like as a community. So since the people in my community haven't graduated, it's hard for me to see myself as graduated, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's on some level I can empathize, although like I'm a weird case in terms of when I'm graduating,
Right.
how long I've been at the school, because like I started in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
but based on the amount of credits I had, I was entering as a junior because I went to community college beforehand, but then like I decided to I initially came in as a film major, but like my associate's degree was in fine art,
right.
So it would have really helped if I were, say, in the Hartford Art School, but the cinema department is in arts and sciences.
Right.
So but then I decided to like add another major in English.
Of course.
And not just English, but like English, the certification to teach.
Yeah.
That's basically a whole nother major.
Right.
And then like I'm also trying to minor in music because I don't know, for some reason I felt like why do when you can overdo, and like to say maximize my educational gains, and because of that, like there's like it's always a whole to do explaining to people, hey, what year are you? Super senior. This is
Yeah.
like this is my third year.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're a junior? No.
Yeah.
But that also means like I don't exactly have a cohort
Right.
really, because like I'm a bit older than most people.
Right.
Currently I'm 24,
Right.
but also I'm not in like there's a discrepancy between the amount of years I've spent at the university
Mhm.
and my class standing. So it's like
Right.
I'm not. I mean, in a way, I think of myself as like each of the 4 years I am constricted to be constrict. What's the word? Prescribed to be here
Right.
based on
Right.
my programs. 4 full years. It's basically like I am going freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah.
But then it's like well, but technically I was a senior last year, and
Right.
now I'm a super senior, and then I'm going to be graduating as a double super senior.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I mean, I made friends along the way,
Yeah.
and I guess and I suppose in a cohort
Mhm.
as small as like the people majoring in English,
Right.
it probably doesn't matter, but it's still like, I'm not sure. I'm having a weird time trying to like find my place, if
Right,
you know what I mean.
right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you don't owe anyone an explanation when they ask you your class standing. I mean, come on, screw that. But I will say that most of my friends are back home. I made two really good friends my freshman year, and then they both transferred because they didn't like UHart. And I mean, that's valid. There's stuff to not like. Um, and then sophomore year, that's when I started like getting outside of my bubble, because my bubble just wasn't there anymore, I guess. But really, it was last year that I really started to solidify those friendships at UHart. And so I don't know if I would say that I have like a really, particular cohort, but I know who I like to be around, and I know, and that's Kira too. I only met Kira last year, really. That's when we first started talking. So, and that's a friendship that I'll probably have for the rest of my life. So I guess when you meet someone isn't as important as the quality of the connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I when I understand that, like when I saw you reading at the poetry circuit
Yeah.
event, and also like I like there was something about like at least in my case, like finding someone else who is as into like literature or writing as I am, and like there's it's the same feeling as when I think back on like really good books
Yeah.
I read when I was young. It's like it's that feeling of connection with someone who like you know so much about them because
Yeah.
you've read this work,
Yeah.
but in the end, but you've also like haven't met them
Right.
or probably never will meet them. But like lucky for me, you were uh you were in a couple of my classes, and so I was like I was thinking like I really would like to talk to her, like get her on the podcast,
Yeah.
like flesh out what a friendship this could be.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm so thankful that you wanted me on the podcast, and this is really cool. And yeah, I mean, it's always so bizarre to me how it's like 6 degrees of separation. Like there were not many degrees of separation between us, but it took until last year for us to actually interact and,
Yeah.
meet. But again, who's to say, like, again, that doesn't really matter, like when you meet someone. So yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm wondering, like, if you say you're applying to grad school, um what schools do you have in mind?
Oh goodness, the list is extensive. But I'll tell you my tops, because if I'm being honest at this point, the list is just like, I let it out of my head the minute I submitted my last application. um, but my tops right now are Syracuse in New York, West Virginia University, University of Virginia, University of Maryland, um, and University of, I want to say Houston is probably another one of my top.
Okay.
But I did apply to one in Colorado. That's kind of like the farthest one from home. But yeah, so those are all MFA programs, and one is a dual MA and MFA because I want to be a professor. So, you know.
So you intend to say get an MFA in like creative writing or
Yeah, specifically fiction. Fiction is where my heart kind of is. Even though most people kind of associate me more with poetry, and that's sort of the poetry circuit thing. You know, that kind of gave me that reputation. But fiction was always kind of my first love, if that makes sense.
Yeah, did you ever think about, I don't know, something like the Iowa Writers Workshop or?
Yeah, I thought about it. I think I forgot what like deterred me from doing it. I think
Iowa.
that too. But I mean, the real estate is so cheap that it would.
Sorry to listeners in Iowa.
But yeah, one of my favorite writers, Leslie Jameson, she did it, and she's just incredible. And so that was the first time that I had heard about it when she was talking about it, and I don't know. I think maybe the application fee was like a ridiculous amount or something. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. Because listen, these applications, I was grateful that they had like events where you could get fee waivers and stuff, or if you showed them your FAFSA, you could get fee waivers. But I mean, some of these schools, $95 to get rejected. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. That is not how I choose to live my life. But yeah, I don't know. I did actually see an opportunity yesterday that just popped up on like Twitter or something. And
how did you hear about this? Twitter,
exactly. Listen, people shit on Twitter, but it actually has great resources if you follow the right people, like opportunities and stuff. And so this opportunity.
I hope that's a thing that like on the application, like they have those questions like, how did you hear about this?
They do, and I lied. I said the internet. Like I'm not going to put Twitter.
I mean, that's valid.
Yeah, I mean,
that is technically correct.
Like on one of the schools that I'm applying to, it's University of Maryland, and I follow one of the people who would be my professor if I went to that program. I follow them on Twitter. And of course, I'm not going to say that I follow them on Twitter and my name is like, not my name on Twitter. But yeah, so I saw this opportunity and it was basically, it's at Bucknell in Pennsylvania. Oh, okay. And if you get accepted, then for 6 months, I think they put you up in a house and you just write your novel. And as someone who wants to write a novel, this is pretty cool. But my fear is going back and asking the people who wrote me recommendation letters for another one, because it took so much for me to ask for recommendation letters because I don't like inconveniencing people. And so, you give them this list and you're like, yes, this is it. That's all you need to do. Just these 5 schools. And then if I come with like more, requests, I just feel like I'm milking it and I feel like an asshole. So
by the way, one more thing. Okay.
Yeah. Like imagine that. I would feel so bad for the rest of my life. It would haunt me. And I know that they don't care because they're nice, but I care. So,
or they don't necessarily mind to.
Yes. Yeah. But what about you? Do you have grad school plans or you just want to go straight into teaching?
Well, if I were to say go into teaching, sooner or later I would need to go to grad school to be recertified or to receive, to have like a permanent certification. Right, I would need to get a master's degree. But I don't know, like, I have like, I haven't thought that far ahead.
Of course,
because I'm so entrenched in like arts and entertainment that the teaching English was designed like as a fallback,
right?
Because it's like entertainment is the most fickle industry ever,
right?
And to be completely honest, I'm not in the education program because I want to teach.
Right.
I'm in the education program because I'm earning an English degree.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I mean, I'll probably end up teaching because let's face it, but also, I had the thought of, I don't know, like getting an MFA in say film production so I could teach film.
Yeah.
And then maybe like getting a PhD in English.
Right.
So I can teach English.
Right.
Because I don't necessarily want to be teaching secondary English my whole life. And but then that's like I'm already like at the age where I quote unquote should be in grad school earning and earning an advanced degree. And so it's like I've already spent a whole lot of time and money trying to get my bachelor's. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Would that be the most productive thing? At this time,
Yeah.
So it's like, or at the time I graduate. And so it's like I'm honestly not quite sure, especially since, there are a lot of programs in English where like the expected track is the MA into the PhD.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, well, does that mean I want to get a master's degree in both film and English? And like, how much time and money would that take?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, most of the programs that I'm applying to, I want to say half or more are fully funded. And so with MFAs, that's a really good thing because English majors and writers, we don't make a lot of money. So we won't have that debt. But at the same time, it makes these programs really, really competitive. And so for one of the programs I'm applying to, it's like they only accept 3 students at a time. And I know what you're thinking. Why apply at all? But I don't know. I mean, it was, going out on a limb there, but yeah, I mean, and I wish that these things were more accessible. Like there are really great writers who deserve fully funded programs, and 3 students at a time is a ridiculous percentage. That's what I want to say that's like less than getting into law school. Like if you get into that and I don't know, but yeah, I mean, if I don't get into a fully funded program, I probably won't go because I can't afford it and don't want to waste money on something that's probably not going to make me money right away. But yeah. So maybe just
don't major in film. Don't. Yeah.
But if there are fully funded film programs, then you can do that, and then you can.
Oh, there are not. Not at least based on what I've seen.
Yeah, and it's like I don't understand that because, like, everyone always shits on like liberal arts, majors and whatever, but it's like we are honestly the backbone of so many industries because you can't have these industries without having writers or people who know how to film or people who know how to do et cetera, whatever. And I mean, people rely so heavily on the entertainment industry that why are you like shitting on people who want to make that their livelihoods? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that was once me. Cause I don't know, like even like I wrote a personal essay about how that which I entered into one of the writing contests, and it was about how like all the things that I like doing basically just passed me by when I was young, and I didn't realize what it was, or if I did like doing it. And like growing up, I thought like I had friends of mine who wanted to be like writers or filmmakers.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, good luck, man.
Yeah.
While all the while there's me, and I'm like a few years later, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and me realizing like, yeah, I didn't. I thought I wanted to get a quote unquote kind of real job in an area that was real, and then I find myself falling back on but all I ever care about is like arts and entertainment, and so it's like, and now it's like egg on my face and my life, and so it was, and then I don't know, now I'm like I feel like I'm in purgatory while I'm in school, because it's like, yeah, I know the entertainment industry is fickle.
Right.
And like I even had like a conflict with my parents when if you listen to Mark's episode, we talk all about it.
Okay.
And Mark Blackwell's episode.
Yeah.
And like my father thought, like, at just one random time,
Right.
asked me like, so what are you gonna do after school? Like, he knew I was majoring in film.
Yeah.
He was like, so what are you gonna do after school? I don't know, because entertainment industry, etc.
Yeah.
Because he didn't understand what that meant.
Right. Right.
I'm like, and he starts, and he's like berating me, like, why are you doing this?
Right. Yeah.
And but like the only thing I had to really defend myself with was the fact was like, I'm already way too deep in,
Right.
way in way too deep. But also, like, I literally don't think about anything else.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sorry if I can't or don't, I'm not able to major in a field that feels lucrative or
Right.
real, like where I can get a real job.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm not even sure if I want, even though it seems like the most likely thing that will happen, I'm not even sure if I want to, say, go to grad school for English.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, like, I'm still entrenched in the idea of doing the artsy stuff. Like,
right.
even when it comes to English, even though I try to be a creative writer, but I wouldn't say I'm there.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah.
No, I get that. I always knew that English was what I really loved, and that it was the thing that I was most passionate about. But of course, you know, coming from my father, who is an accountant and a professor of accounting, and then my mom, who used to be a nurse, like, that's not what they envisioned for their daughter. And so for a while I wanted to be in STEM. In high school we had different majors, like that's how my high school was broken up. And so I was a business major in high school. And you know, this was really until my junior year, I want to say, that I was hell-bent on being a business major or doing something, you know, lucrative, like you said. And then I was just like, but I'll be miserable. And like, I can't do that to myself. I mean, and so I tried to explain this to my parents, and at first they were really wary. And I feel like with my parents, and I love them, God knows I love them. But I feel like they only, I don't know how to phrase this without like sounding weird. But they only recognize the validity of something if there is like outside praise of it, or validation of it, I guess. And so it wasn't until I would, like, you know, have professors tell me that, you know, I had these skills or something like that, or, you know, when I did win the writing contest, it was then that they started to like really realize that, okay, maybe this isn't completely, you know, illogical. And so, you know, I don't really show them my work, just because a lot of my work is very personal, and because, like, you know, they don't have much experience with literature, so they might not understand something and then I'll feel bad. And like, I don't know, it just, you know, kind of takes me out of it. But they have been supportive in the past like 2-ish years, which feels good. And once I told them that I wanted to be a professor, they were more on board, because my dad always wanted me to be a professor. So yeah.
I don't know, my parents didn't really, they never thought much farther than he goes to college.
Yeah.
And so like they never really pushed me to do anything.
Right.
And but of course when I start doing something, I'm in the wrong direction.
Right.
And it's like at least in my case, like I feel like I don't have to worry about showing my parents my work. Yeah. Because for one, like, English is not a language for them, but also, right, like, they're even if they did speak like a great deal of English, they're probably not going to get it. Right. But also, like, I've never seen my parents, either of them, read a book before. So
yeah. Like, I mean, I don't want, my parents are probably going to like, I told them about this, so they might want to listen. So I'm not going to, expose them or anything. We have books. My dad has read many books, but
yeah.
as you get older and you get further into your career or, raising kids, I feel like there's not much time for it. And so it kind of was something that they, left in college sort of.
Well, in case of my parents, they're immigrants who, let's say, like they didn't receive like a formal education, or if they did, not much.
Yeah.
So like they actually would probably not be able to understand anything I write.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not that like they're not willing to. It's like they actually kind of can't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My mom didn't have much of a formal education at first, because I don't know. It always like boggles my mind when she tells this story. But basically, when my parents came from Puerto Rico, they entered into, the education system in New York. And with my mom, she went into it was a high school that was specifically for nursing. And so they put her ahead of, everyone else, I guess, when she came from Puerto Rico. And she graduated that high school at 16 with her nursing license. So she became a nurse at 16 in New York, which feels very illegal now, and it probably is. But yeah, so she was working at 16 in a hospital. Or maybe they waited until her 17th birthday just to be nice about it. But yeah, so she never, I guess, had that real high school experience where they would give them books to read and stuff like that. And also growing up in a super, Christian household, wasn't really allowed to read any book other than the Bible. Like didn't go to a movie theater until she was 28, 29, like that strict.
Mm-hmm.
And so there definitely is there definitely are some things that, she doesn't particularly understand about my passion for these things. So yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, and like I even have like a sibling, but I have an older brother, but like I also never saw him reading a book.
Yeah.
Unless it was like for school or something.
Right.
So I fantasize about like if I do write something, they will like no one in my family will probably have the capacity or impetus to read it.
Right.
So like do I still like if I ever do publish anything, do I give them a copy? And then now
I think
I'm like
so.
I'm leaning like no.
Oh. I was gonna say sure. I mean, just like the gesture itself, of wanting to include them, I feel like that is also kind of nice.
I mean, like although to me, like that with that particular set of given circumstances, that scenario, like it feels like a hollow gesture.
Right.
And I know, and like I'm very against hollow gestures.
Yeah.
So I feel like I wouldn't want to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like my mother like literally can like she can read like road signs. That's about it. So it's like handing her a copy of her own of whatever it is.
Right.
And like I'm more than my eyebrows will raise and not just mine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was going to suggest something because, like most of my family outside of my, like mom, dad, and siblings and, aunt and uncle or whatever, they don't speak much English. And so for my abuela, what I have been wanting to do is like, every time I write something that I potentially want her to be able to read, I'll do a version in Spanish. And so, I mean, that is obviously a lot of work to translate if you write a whole novel. but you could also hire someone to do it,
Yeah.
and maybe do that because
Wait, hold on. If you were to translate your own writing, your own manuscript to
yes,
be for another publication, do you also get paid for that?
I mean, you should. I'm not trying to do free labor, no. But I do think, again, I feel like there is something to be said about, accessibility, and especially in terms of family, who we wouldn't be in the position that we are in right now had they not made the choices that they made, to come here or to, do whatever. And so, yeah, I feel like every time I write, even if I don't share it with my family because because it's personal or because I think that they'll judge me, I still feel like, to me, it is a way for me to honor them, even if they don't know that I'm honoring them, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh no, you might have heard me and Kara talk about how like I don't feel like a very solid connection to my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am so the black sheep,
Right,
and
right.
I like my parents will never understand what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you hear that kind of cliche with, yeah, my parents, they don't like they know I have a job, but they don't know what it is,
Right,
or they
right,
don't understand what it is. But it's like they will never understand what I do. Period.
right,
Like
right.
I'm so like the all the things I'm into. It's like all the things that I do. They're never going. It's they'll never have a working understanding enough to really appreciate, or at the very least feel any kind of pride for like how much I enjoy it,
Right.
or how much work I put into it.
Yeah.
So it's like or so it's or it, especially in the case of like, say, if I were to write anything, it's like, yeah, so you wrote a thing, I'm not going to read it,
Right,
or
right,
I can't read it. So it's like, I don't know that it makes me wonder if anything I do, is it worth it?
right. Yeah. I mean, that's a valid feeling. I feel like, you know, that definitely comes with a lot of doubt. And I don't know, I forgot one of my favorite writers, they basically said, like, is it worth creating if no one is gonna, like, does it really exist? It's basically like one of those things, like, does it exist if no one is there to tell you that it exists? Or
Yeah,
tree falls, doesn't make a
yeah.
sound. And I
Like
mean,
if it exists in a
it's like you,
vacuum, then
right,
it's
right.
like, what does it mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, yeah, and again, that's a tough thing to wrestle with for sure. But like you said earlier, you choose your friends, and I mean, we'll always be here to read your stuff. That's a promise. Like, if you put stuff out into the world, I would be the first to get it. And
Well, that's comforting to hear, Gabby.
yeah, I mean, listen, you have a support system for sure, and I know that there's like a particular validation that you seek from family, and like
Well,
especially
I don't particularly seek it, but
right,
like I recognize, like I know what the score is right now.
right, yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so you do have people who will engage and support you.
Yeah, I like for the longest time I didn't think of myself as a writer, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Because I didn't write. Like I think like my way into writing was probably screenplays,
yeah, yeah.
because like I love film. I love films,
Right.
and like the way like screenplays are written, like it made sense to me,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's like it's telling you what happens.
Right,
It's
right,
not like trying to be impressive or flowery,
right,
or whatever. And so it's like, so that gave me an in, so I could like understand, but also like the way, like the idea behind screenplays.
right.
You have to fit, if you're writing like just a movie, like a commercial, just a movie to entertain people.
Right.
It has to be like within certain set of minutes.
Yeah.
And also like be structured in a way that makes sense
Right.
for your average movie.
Yeah.
So like that gave me an in to understand what writing is, and that is not just throwing words on the page.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, that makes sense. I think the burden of having to, I don't know, like for this writing sample, for instance, it really is the beginning of what I hope will be a novel someday. And just trying to get to like those 30 pages and, you know, try to fit this formula, but also know that my voice doesn't particularly fit that formula. And I don't know, there's just like this expectation with fiction where people expect a certain thing, or with a short story, like they expect, you know, XYZ. And it's so hard, like trying to do that. And I'm sure that it's the same with a film, you know, like if you're trying to go against what is expected, you know what I mean? I don't know if that made sense at all.
I think it's a matter of using convention to structure your story, but then changing it up, messing around with it, messing with the form in order for your voice to come through. Right. So that it's not just every other story. It's not like every other story.
Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like that's the biggest fear in terms of like entering this writing world, or whatever you want to call it. And it's just that we're not at the point where that shift in voice or in form or whatever is like widely accepted. And so, you know, when you're applying to these programs, and I keep bringing it back to, that's kind of like all my life is, or has been for the last like 3 months. But you know, you can look on the websites and see who is going to be reading your work, essentially, because it's the professors that you're going to have that are going to be reading it. And it's kind of discouraging to see how lacking in diversity those, you know, those like people are. And so it's just like, to be accepted into these.
Iowa, we're talking to you. Yeah. No.
Listen. But it's really discouraging, because it's like, even if you do get your foot in the door, if you're going to be in a space that is unwelcoming, or that only wants you to prove to themselves that they're, you know, open-minded, but they're really not. That's just like a super discouraging part of these creative fields, because historically, I mean, they're just like really white, really male, and, you know, and yeah.
So they're so white.
So white.
And it makes me wonder about, like, if you were to enter a program and you write, like, say, memoir type stuff.
Yeah.
Does it maybe if you were to submit fiction from a particularly ethnic perspective,
right,
that like whoever's reading it might not get, would like a memoir knock one more wall down in between that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe, right? Because a memoir is just like, you know, someone telling a story from their lived experiences, essentially. Yeah. But I mean, and listen, I'm sure that there are many writers who would agree with me, but like, none of my fiction is actually 100% fiction. I mean, I don't think that it is possible for any person on this planet to write about something that they haven't lived in some way, or that they haven't witnessed in some way. And so, like, even when I'm writing these characters, I mean, you know, some of them have my traits, and then some have the traits of people that I really dislike, and I'm trying to like at them, or like, you know, subtweet them. And
look, I've never been a Jedi, but I have a feeling I could write episode 10.
Yeah. Why not? I say go for it, because
I could write.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Look, Lucasfilm, don't bother if you're listening to this. I haven't written anything yet.
Oh my God, they're gonna sue you.
I don't have anything. They can't sue me. There's nothing to look at.
I don't know. They might try to get in your head.
No.
But can we just like end Star Wars supremacy though? Because it's just like it's going too far. Like the lineup of new stuff that they're trying to release. Like I just no. That's not Disney supremacy. That's what it actually is. But
no, but like yeah. So well, at least I feel I get what you're saying. Like anything, like write what you know.
Yes,
but that doesn't necessarily mean literally only things you've experienced.
Right.
But like at least things like you can empathize with.
Yeah.
That you can at least experience vicariously.
Right. Without, like cultural appropriation or anything like that. Because that is, I mean, listen, I hope no one is, I graduated. They can't do anything. So I was like I took a class and there was someone else in the class that was a white woman and she wrote from the perspective of Rosa Parks. And I like kind of called her out. Like I was kind of like, this is not okay. And like, I don't like, again, I know that it shouldn't be the burden of someone to like educate someone when the internet is free. But, I was just like, how am I the only person who sees something wrong with this? Like,
well, I guess it depends on how they handled it. How was it? Was it particularly bad?
It was like speaking.
Tone deaf?
Yes, sure. It was tone deaf, and I think there were, if I remember correctly, like particular lines about. It was a poem, and there were particular lines like alluding to the fact that she was a Black woman, but like it was from her own voice. And I was just like, this doesn't sit well with me. Like, I understand that intention, good intentions could have been there. You could have wanted to honor Rosa Parks' legacy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like the impact is what matters, I think. And yeah, I mean, and this is something that like all writers have to struggle with at one point or another, because like you can be a white writer, but if you're only writing white characters, like that is also problematic, but you can never take on the voice of another character, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't know, it makes me think about how like people who look at me can tell I'm Asian, right. But like you might have heard like on Kira's episodes me talk multiple times about how I don't feel Asian. I don't feel particularly connected to that identity.
Right.
And does that automatically grant me a license to be like, if I were to write about, say, Asian characters because I am Asian, or the fact that I don't feel Asian, does that discredit me? That I'm not like, I don't, my disconnect with the identity, does that not qualify me to be writing from a perspective like that?
I don't know. Again, that's a really good question, because I don't think it discredits you if you don't feel connected to your culture or that identity. And I think that you do have every right to write Asian characters if you felt so inclined. I think the difference is only speaking to the experiences that you have had as an Asian man, as opposed to like making generalizations about all Asian experiences, if that makes sense. Because because again, like I'm Puerto Rican, but I could never write from the perspective of like an Afro Puerto Rican. I would never do that. I can only speak to the experiences that I've had as a Puerto Rican in predominantly white spaces where people assume that I am white until they know otherwise. And then when they learn that I am Puerto Rican, then I get particular like microaggressions or comments. And so that is kind of like that is the space that my characters sit in, where, I mean, in the story that I'm writing now, or whatever is going to be a novel, the main character is half Puerto Rican and half white. And I did that intentionally to show how, you can still have these experiences, but at the end of the day, like you do have the white privilege, you do have the white skin that protects you from you know, the experiences that other people have. Like I do have Afro-Latino people in my family, and I do have people who have had racist encounters in the streets of New York. Like that is something that I have heard from my family members, but I would never claim that I have had those experiences. I would never, ever do that. And so it's just a matter of being responsible and, you know, owning the experiences that you have, without taking on the experiences of someone else. And I feel like with my work, I particularly do that with, just thinking about, you know, like my own upbringing and the things that make me feel most connected to my culture. And so a lot of my work, like I'll include metaphors or descriptions of like particular foods and particular dishes. And so that kind of just lays the foundation and kind of connects it back to the culture without saying like, oh, like I'm oppressed just because I'm Puerto Rican. Like that's not how it works. Like you can be oppressed in many ways. And, you know, my oppression is not one of race. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess, I suppose, like if I were to do that, my way in would be to write about feeling conflicted.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, or if, or maybe to write like memoir-y things about it, so that there's one less wall of artifice,
right,
for people to get into it, because there's something about like writing fiction, presenting something as fiction,
right.
you trying to write about your experience, where it is more like people see it as a generalization, as opposed to say if you're writing a memoir-y kind of a personal essay or something like that.
Yeah. No, I get that. Over the summer, I wrote this short story, and it was from the perspective of this Puerto Rican girl who was celebrating Noche Buena, which is like that's typically what we celebrate instead of Christmas. We celebrate Noche Buena, which is New Year's Eve. I mean, Christmas Eve. Stupid. But so the story was, you know, taking place with this daughter who had returned home and was making coquito, which is this really traditional Puerto Rican drink for Christmas. And she was making it with her mom and all of this. And it was from a first person perspective. And this is something that like back in like high school, one of my teachers shit on me for. And it was because I didn't reveal like anything about the gender or the name of the first person character until very late in the story. And so in this story, I basically only revealed it in one line when the mom was saying the name of this character. And so I submitted it to this magazine, and it got published. And then some other like magazine or journal or whatever caught wind of it and just wrote a piece like, this is what we're reading this week. And it was my story, but they thought that it was a memoir because they didn't catch the name. And so they were just like, oh yeah, Gabriella Navas writes about her post-suicide attempt encounter with her mother. And I was just like, no. And I couldn't correct them because I didn't.
I might have seen that.
Yeah.
Because I remember hearing like you were published in X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And like Googling you to find stuff, your work. And I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Yeah. And I was just like, I mean, wow. I can't really correct you now because I didn't even see that they had written about my, you know, they don't notify you when someone writes about what is published of yours. And I was just like, this is not good because I don't want people to think that I was like, you know, really suicidal or anything. And so there's no way to correct that. But again, like people are so willing to accept something as memoir until they realize that it's fiction. You know what I mean? So that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, you're right. That's what I always Googled though. That feels like a cool thing to say. Like, yeah, Benson Googled me.
I was Googled for the wrong reason.
That's why I'm like, nothing is private. Like, I mean, My parents never think.
Even your fictional life is
Even my
not private.
fictional life is now. I mean, there are people probably out here thinking that
Your semi-autobiographical fictional life is not
Listen, was it entirely fictionalized? Absolutely not. The suicide part definitely was, though. But there are obviously aspects of fictionalized things,
yeah.
that can't be truly fictional. And I don't know. I if there's someone out there who can write something truly fictional that they've never experienced and they're completely detached from, I mean, hat off to them. But I just
Token.
think it's possible.
No, but there's it makes me wonder about how, like, me writing stuff that, like, I want, for the most part, I'd probably want to stick with things I know
Right.
that I've experienced. But then, like, I have the idea of writing lots of stuff about being a musician.
Right.
But then it's like, I know that not everyone will probably understand half of these things that I talk about.
Right.
So it makes me wonder, like, what's the right choice between, say, watering down the writing so that it's more accessible, or like staying true to what you think the experience is, and like wanting to be authentic to that?
So I am kind of the camp that if a reader is signing up to read something, then the responsibility is on them to then make the effort to understand it. And so, I mean, that for me in particular is something that happens when I include Spanish in my work. And I have had people tell me like, oh, but it like took too much effort for me to Google, or it took me out of the story because I didn't understand these words. And I mean, I never understand the mindset that, something has to be, because in that particular case, it's for a monolingual white audience. Like, I don't understand why that is the assumption. And so I feel like it should never be the burden of the writer, unless it's, completely outlandish, like you're, what's that language from like Star Trek? Like you're speaking that obviously like,
what is it called?
Klingon.
Klingon.
Yes. Like that I could maybe understand, including like a dictionary in the back, a glossary, but
for this companion
yes,
book,
exactly.
That is full of Klingon phrases.
Exactly. But for the most case, like if you are passionate about something, I say write it. Who cares if people don't understand like the technical terms or the musical terms that you're using? Yeah. Google is free. Like if this was maybe like 20 years ago where we didn't have, access to Google or, all of these sources, I would say, okay, yeah, maybe include a glossary or something. But again, we're living in 2020, about to be 2021. Like, I think I don't know. I'm very passionate about that particular subject. Yeah. I really don't think that it should be the burden of a writer to cater to any, particular audience.
Cause I don't know, like, last semester when we had the playwriting class together.
Yes.
I felt that conflict writing my own things, but also hearing like other people's writing about how I could tell like maybe they were trying to write about personal experiences they've had, but it was so idiosyncratic. You'd think more specificity makes it more believable.
Right.
But in the end, it kind of goes the other direction. Like it's so idiosyncratic and esoteric because it was their particular experience.
Right.
That it becomes less readable.
Yeah.
And like I get like in the things I wrote, it's I guess the one thing that did kind of stem directly, almost verbatim from like a personal experience of mine was like the monologue about the musician.
Yeah.
And at the very least, that one, like people could find a way in, even like if you brush past all the like technical terms about whatever.
Right.
It was about like not being recognized for your merit. And that's now like that's the foundation that people can grab onto.
Right, right. No, yeah, maybe I should revise what I said. I definitely think that, things should be readable and things should be, as realistic as possible, unless you're doing like genre, where there are no rules.
Yeah.
But I guess my overarching argument is like in terms of, culture or like specifically things that you're passionate about and knowledgeable about. I don't think that you should have to cut your knowledge of something or your connection to whatever to cater to those audiences. But I do understand, because like in our playwriting class, we would read some stuff and the dialogue was just really not realistic. And then someone would say, well, that's how like my friends and I speak. And I understand that, like in those scenarios, you do want to make the dialogue seem as realistic as possible, because I have friends who like consider themselves very intellectual, and when they write prose and they'll write dialogue, they write this really like intellectual dialogue, and like it's analyzing the secrets of the universe, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, we're 15. And I'll be like, no, you're not. And again, like I know these people, I know that that's how they speak in real life. And when we were 15 and 16, we were having some really like deep conversations. But I use that term, like, I hope our listeners know that, I'm using all the finger quotes in the world. But at the same time, like, that's not how the general population speaks. And there is a disconnect when, you talk about, when you speak really intellectually about things that can be made more accessible. And that's why academia, doesn't sit well with me in general, just because like so much is so inaccessible. And I'm like, you could sum this up into a 140 character tweet if you really wanted to.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There's it's the fine line between, like, just because it happened to you does not necessarily mean it'll translate to everyone else reading it.
Yeah.
So like there has to be some curating of whatever. If you happen to be writing about an experience you've had,
there
has to be, like, there's a reason why when you adapt things into different media, that there's always going to be something to change.
Yeah.
To fit the form, to economize,
right,
and streamline the storytelling.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of making sure it translates well.
Yes.
To more than just you reading it when you're writing it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's like the burden. One of my many flaws as a writer is that I really always think that, like, not always, but sometimes I think that my experiences or my feelings about a particular thing are universal, or that it's easy for someone who hasn't experienced that to make that leap and make that connection. And so I kind of feel sometimes like I might be jumping the gun a little bit. And so I always try to reel myself back in and realize that, like, hey, like, no, like, clarify this. And so if there are writers listening to this, I don't know. But one thing I will say is, like, get someone who is not a writer friend to read your work over like afterwards. And that's how you really know whether something works, because that's who's going to be reading it. And yeah, but yeah, why do we choose to be writers? I don't know.
I don't know. It's well, at least in my case, it's because I knew I wouldn't tolerate studying anything other than film besides English, and but also, like, I look, like, people might look at me and see all the things I do and think he's so eclectic, multi whatevers. But in the end, I think of them all as the same thing.
Right.
Because to me, it's writing. Because I want to be able to, write prose or poetry.
Yeah.
Or music.
Right.
Or be a songwriter. Or the word photography, as it applies to both, like, still or motion picture,
right.
is writing with light. And so the way I think about it, it's all writing, writing in different forms. And, it's, and things I wouldn't even think of myself as particularly smart. It's just like, I've learned to do all the things I know how to do. It was just a matter of me taking the time and ambition in order to learn about it. And like people might say I am talented in a particular field, but I'm like, no, it's not. I don't think of myself that, or like he's so creative. He like does all this stuff, and like I think of myself as not even being a creative.
Right.
I'm like, I think in those fields, I think of myself more as just a technician, because I put in a lot of time and effort to learn about it, to do it.
Right.
It's not because I came in with so much raw talent that like it just flowed from my fingers.
Right.
And it's and it makes me think about how, if I'm like I'm not sure how to phrase this without sounding, but like if I'm able to like play music or make films, and I don't think they're particularly very good, but other people think that's amazing.
Right.
I think one of the last few things that I want to be able to do to try to do well is write.
Yeah.
Or at least write prose, because like I know how to write screenplays. That was the way I got into writing, and I know how to do that. And I guess, okay, maybe two things: write poetry and prose. Because like I understand poetry to some extent. Like I try to write songs, and the lyric part is poetry.
Right.
But like I still have a long way to go to understanding how and why poetry works, and also like how writing prose works.
Yeah.
Like say, like fiction, I guess I'm like halfway there because I know how to write screenplays.
Right.
But there's still something about how people actually put together prose that I'm not quite getting at.
Right.
Like you might have heard me and Kira talk about how I fantasize about writing memoirs.
Yeah.
And I'm halfway there because I know how to put sentences together.
Right.
But the way I write is very informational. It's very delivering information.
Right.
And so in order to, the way to write a bad memoir is to write a biography.
Right.
So I need because whenever I write stuff, I'm not thinking about the coolest, most creative way to turn a phrase.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking on that level.
Right.
And like the closest I ever came to that was I was writing a response about the short story Woman Hollering Creek by Sandra Cisneros.
Oh my God, I love her. Stop.
Right? And so, for people who are not aware, it's about women in terrible relationships, but they watch telenovelas and they feel better about themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I was writing a response for Survey of American Literature Part 2, taught by Dr. Cinch. And I wrote something like, because they're attached to these telenovelas because they're vicariously living through these fictional women who like suffer through their relationships for love, because it's all worth it in the end, right?
Yeah.
I wrote something like, if suffering is a bridge to happiness, then surely they would need only stay long enough to cross it.
Damn. Snaps for Benson.
And I didn't think twice about it because I was just trying to write a thing to get graded. Right. And I submit it. And then Dr. Cinch writes back to me after he has graded it. And he says, I love this line. It's so Benson.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until then I realized what a turn of phrase it was.
Right. No, that's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I think if I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and I'm hoping that no one who will be judging me and accepting me into an MFA, fingers crossed, is listening to this, but I don't know the rules of poetry or of fiction. If I'm being honest, I do it and then I kind of just see if it works. And so that's like the starting point, and obviously, I mean, I feel like I would be able to tell if I was really far off. But it's just a matter of like not thinking twice about it until after the fact. And even just you saying that line makes me, so sure that you could pull off fiction, you know, without trying, like you did with that line. And that's just really awesome. It's in you. That's what it is.
I mean, that's an optimistic take on it. Because I feel like I haven't written anything like that since.
Right.
And that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's because like when I am writing, I'm not thinking about the coolest line ever to write. It's like, I feel like if I end up trying to do it, then it's like you're trying too hard, you're thinking too much about it.
Yeah.
And then like it's like I'm not sure how to, like if I were to try to write fiction or like memoir-y stuff and try to put that kind of flair on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of capacity I have for that, and if it will conflict with the actual writing, you know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I mentioned Leslie Jameson earlier, and I think that you would really like her work because she, you know, what she writes is memoirs, and, you know, she tells stories about her life, and the prose is just like so beautiful. And it doesn't get in the way of the story. It just kind of like brings you closer to it, if that makes sense. And I mean, I feel like that is what memoir does successfully. And it's blend those two things. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say like check her out because she's really, really cool. And writes a lot. And she's one of those writers where you don't necessarily have to have experienced the things that she's talking about to empathize with them or to feel like, you know, impacted by them. And so like one of her books, and it's like 400 or 500 pages, it's huge. And it's called The Recovering, and it's basically tracking her alcoholism. And of course, like, I have never experienced alcoholism, but the way that she was talking about it and the way that she used her addiction to talk about her addiction to other things in her life, like, you know, the desire to be wanted and to be loved, or the desire to be a really successful writer and, you know, succeed at the Iowa's Writers Workshop. And so she did have like a section on that where she was just like, I was trying way too hard. Like I was trying to be who I thought an Iowa writer should be. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I really think that like addiction, you know, obviously like it manifests in many different ways, but I feel like we are all kind of addicted to something in some sense. And so it's a really good work. As you can tell, I ramble a lot about, about things that I like.
Yeah. I'm addicted to doing things I'm not particularly good at. And it's,
no.
We're trying. And,
no, but I know you said that you don't consider yourself particularly like good, or you don't like to use the word talented, but I mean, from an outsider's perspective, that is definitely how I see you and how other people see you, because I mean,
stop.
I mean, especially with like,
I'll cut this out later to just
no, keep all the flattery. Just keep that. That's it. That's the whole podcast. Just
remove, excise all praise.
Yeah.
By the way, it's the title of my next album, Excise All Praise.
I love that. You heard it here first. But I feel like that's such a thing that like when people come on podcasts say, they're just like, you heard it here first. Like, okay, like are we broadcasting to the entire world? No, but you know, it makes it feel cool to say it. So, but yeah, no, I especially with like instruments, like I always wanted to learn how to play instruments. I used to sing and I used to like perform with my friends who would play the instruments. But I gave up on guitar because my fingers weren't long enough to reach like the top string in like middle school. And I was just like, they're never going to grow. Like, and I'm going to stay this size forever. Meanwhile, I was like 5'2", but like, not to shit on anyone who's 5'2", love you all. But like, But
It
yeah.
was her experience being 5'2"
Yes.
that she's banging on.
And yeah, and the same with like piano. Like my fingers were just too short, and I was just like, I can't do it. This is, God humbled me by not giving me long fingers, but like,
I mean, I don't particularly have long fingers, and although I wish I did, so
right.
that it'd be more useful for like guitar or piano.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like I'm in terms of like say music, I'm so like I came into this with nothing.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm not talented. It was a matter of time and effort, and I wish I could sing. Like
Right.
I'm not particular. If I were able to sing well,
Mm.
then I wouldn't need to put or not need or it's me putting all the time and effort in trying to be an instrumentalist is me
Right.
trying to compensate for me not being able to sing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But so by your logic that you are not talented, which I personally disagree with, but by that logic, do you think that anyone could do what you do if they just put in time and effort? Because I don't think so. I think that talent is something that can be maybe like unlocked if you don't want to say that you had a like if you want to say that you weren't born talented, you are surely talented now that you've like put in the time and effort, if that makes sense.
I don't know. Because I basically had no real measurable skill in anything when I was growing up, aside from like math.
Right.
Which although I guess in a way that was probably the reason why I was able to pick up so many things
Right.
now, because I have a mind that's very like analytical,
Right.
and I love looking at all the nuts and bolts of things. And like I said before, I don't think of any of this as like really mysterious. You have to like creativity, blah blah blah, let it hit you.
Right.
It's me like trying to figure out how it works, figure
Yeah.
out why and how things are in terms of like music or writing or filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I guess if I end up answering your question, it's I feel like it's possible for anyone to like end up where I am, I suppose.
Right.
But it's all about the work. It's all about having the ambition, the time, the nerditude in order to like really drill down into whatever you're trying to understand
Right.
and then do it. Because and things I don't even necessarily think of myself as a doer like I just happen to know a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I happen to have amassed enough knowledge in order to understand how things work and then sort of do them.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Because I don't know. I guess like growing up, I the mindset maybe in my house or just like in the people that I knew was like if you don't show talent right away, then you're not talented. And I don't buy into that, but I also don't buy into the idea that everyone can do anything, if that makes sense. Because I mean, there are surely people who like could try all they want to be able to sing or to like, do something or dance, and they just can't like, or I don't know, that sounds bad. Like, yes, you can, I guess you can do something. Are you going to be good at it is the real question. Like, I don't know. That sounded mean. Like, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I'm just saying like, I know for a fact that there are like some things I can't do. And I really don't think that I feel like I'm not coordinated enough to do music. Like I can't do it.
Well, I'm not coordinated enough to dance, but I am coordinated enough to play music. So
Right.
it's, I mean, like there are things I know I can't do.
Right.
Like say dance or from, I guess based on the rest of this conversation, write prose, but also I'm not trying to, I guess I'm not trying to prove anything if that makes sense. I just want these happen to be the things I like to do.
Right.
So it makes all the sense in the world for me to dive in way too deep.
Right, right.
So because I want to be the best I can be, to know as much as I can,
Yeah.
to be able to semi do them.
Right,
You
right.
know?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think I think I definitely have like more of a, I don't want to call myself a quitter, but I do get frustrated. I do get frustrated with myself if I don't if something doesn't come easily to me. And I
Yeah.
know that that's like the antagonist of growth, like that's not how you grow, but at the same time it's like I don't know, I'm not very patient with myself. I'm really patient with other people but never with myself, and that is a courtesy that I'm still learning to extend to myself as I try new things. And I mean that's just something I want to be better at. So you are very inspirational in that regard.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you that none of the things I do came easy.
Right.
Because like I was just a blank slate that was good at math. That's about it.
Yeah.
So like the ease came in the drive to do it.
Right.
Because
Right.
people like you say, like for yourself, you might get frustrated and just throw it out
Right.
at the first impasse.
Yeah.
So like the reason, like me being so driven and nerdy to dig into it was that's half the battle.
Right. Right.
The other half is like following through so that you do end up doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I again, I think that that's like, I don't know, I guess it also just like depends on how you view time, if that makes sense. Because like growing up, like my dad is very much I don't know, like he would rather rush to do something than like, I don't know, I guess he just like really values time is what I'm trying to say. And so he doesn't want to spend it doing something that isn't productive in the short term. So like for him, maybe practicing isn't productive in the short term, but in the long term, obviously it would pay out. And so for me, I feel like I got kind of just like inherited that from him. And like, I used to be in some sports, like I would do track, and then he tried to teach me basketball, and like the practicing, was valuable, obviously, when it came to like the meets and when it came to like playing, games with him or whatever. But in the moment, I was always like, I hate this. Like, why can't I just go? Why can't the race just be tomorrow? Why do we have to practice 4 times a week? And yeah, so that's just, again, like I don't consider myself a quitter in the sense that like I have stuck to so many things in my life, and I do finish what I start, but it's just a matter of like, unless something seems really attainable, then I won't start it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine how many opportunities are missed because we end our journey before it starts?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like there are a few things where like I picked it up and threw it out after a week because I wasn't too into it, but like I'm to an extent I am glad that for like the reason I do anything that I'm into is because I guess because I had a lot of time on my hands, but also like I just didn't want to not do it.
Right. Yeah.
The alternative was to not do it, and I didn't want that.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think like those missed opportunities that you said, that's kind of what like keeps me up at night. Like that would be the thing, because even just now, like graduating, I was like, I wasted like, I mean, this is going to sound awful, but I can say it. But like, I wasted so much time just being mentally ill. Like, I know that it's not really something I can like help. Like these are, things that I have to deal with for the rest of my life. But I really like kick myself sometimes because I was like, damn, like my anxiety really stopped me, or like, I don't have many pictures because I just like didn't want to be perceived. So like, I wasted so much time, and I wasted like so many chances to do these really great things just because, my mental would then like affect my physical. Like sometimes I would just like get so anxious that I would actually like make myself physically ill.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I spent like a good chunk of college being like a sickly child, like like in the olden times. Like I just, I don't know. And so I know that whatever comes next, like that is something that I want to push back against, because I know that there have been missed opportunities and I don't want to let those opportunities, pass me by again. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm obligated to say that it's never too late
Right.
to at least try to catch up on those.
Yeah.
Given that, everything I do that may or may not be a career, I rediscovered basically when I was like 18.
Yeah.
Or a little bit later. And the best time was yesterday.
Right.
The best time to start was yesterday.
Right.
Or any time before. So, it's like, even with say with the podcast, I decided I wanted to start a podcast in like 2014, 2015.
Right.
Went out, bought the equipment, sat down. It's like, but like the anxiety about doing it, or like finding people to talk to.
Yeah.
Or I feeling like I was comfortable in knowing how to do it.
Yeah.
Stopped me. And so I didn't start this until 2019.
Right.
So the best time to start was before.
Yeah.
The next best time is now.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. I think that's a good mantra to tell ourselves. I mean, it is like, it's true. I mean, yeah, I do tend to believe that time is precious, and that sounds really cliche, which is maybe why it like bugs me so much that I let so much of it, go to waste. But I also just think that like, I think we have to show ourselves some grace in terms of like letting ourselves not be productive 24/7, because burnout is a real thing. And I mean, I this is really my first break since last September, because I took winter classes and then I took summer classes. And so I've really been nonstop since the summer, since, September of 2019. And so, I got stuff done, and on paper, what I've accomplished looks good. And I mean, I guess that's good for, getting jobs and stuff like that. But at the same time, like the mental toll that all of that took, like the amount of times that I just wanted to like just stop, like, and again, it's also like a cultural thing. Like, that is the culture we live in under capitalism, where we are made to feel like we have to do something with our lives at every second. But at the same time, like, we just need to show ourselves grace. And that's like the word that I always keep coming back to, because I don't know, that's what it is. You just have to be easy on yourself sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe try not to take things too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I think my like the wall I had to climb over and say in terms of doing the podcast remotely was I had to remember I'm just talking to my friends.
Yeah.
I'm like if anyone listens to any old episode where it's just me and a friend talking, we're like bullshitting.
Yeah, just shooting
trying to make each other laugh and just talking about pickles. So
falling.
So it's not like you don't have to, like, I guess the thing I have to be going after, the thing I value is the experience of doing this.
Yeah.
And not necessarily having everything be pitch perfect.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely something to overcome. I think, I mean, like, I'm glad that, like, I always feel really grateful for the friendships that I made in like middle school and high school, and that I've been able to continue them, even though I'm not the same person I was back then. Because in middle school, like, I took everything so seriously. Like, we were in like this,
as you do.
Yes, exactly. And like, we were in this, like advanced, like, gifted program. And I mean, we were doing like physics in 8th grade. Like, that's what I mean when I say like advanced. And I would just take everything so seriously. And I was like, damn, that kid had no life. Like, that girl was miserable. And
I mean, at that age, what the hell else do have? That's your entire life, and it's not that long.
I mean, like playing video games or something. I mean, like I was really I was that kid who would my parents would have to like tell me to do something that I enjoy, like, hey, like go watch some TV or something, and I'd be like, no, I have like an assignment due, and I'd just be like, ugh, like I'd get so anxious. And I mean, I am kind of the same way now, but at least I learned how to like, I know how to enjoy life, and like I. That's just like I'm like trying to convince you, but like
tell me how to enjoy things.
I know, like God, I'm such a dweeb, but like what. Point is, like, I had fun during college is what I'm trying to say. And I allowed myself that fun, and I allowed myself to do things. And, were they all PG or PG-13? Absolutely not. But they were fun. And that is the whole point. Like, just finding that balance. Oh, God. I'm not letting my parents listen to this. They like don't even know that I've ever tasted alcohol. Like, oh God, whatever.
Tell them to stop. If they listen to it, be like, stop at this part.
Yeah, I don't think they have Spotify, so it's fine.
Just stop.
Yeah, just don't listen. I'll like, I don't know. I'll just like record something. I'll like, what do you call it? I'll have it playing on my laptop, and then I'll record it on my phone, and then just like edit it down so that they don't know what I said. As you can see, I'm very methodical. When it comes to strict parents, you have to be, though, because
send the Gabi mix to you directly.
Yes, exactly.
So that your parents don't hear.
But you really do have it makes me feel so bad, because when you grow up with really strict parents, like not allowed to do anything, go anywhere, you become a liar in some ways. And honesty is like one of the things that I value most.
Well, you write fiction.
I'm going to just not we're not going to talk about it, but like, but yeah, you become, maybe me becoming a writer and writing fiction is a trauma response. That could be it. I think so. But
that's
like, it makes sense. Someone psychoanalyze me, please.
The arc of your life.
Yes, exactly. All just one trauma response. But yes, you become pretty methodical in how much you choose to share with, and then I feel like you also become an overshare with your friends, because you can't tell your parents things.
Yep.
And so like, I know that some of my friends, like I'm completely an oversharer, and like I because I am a writer, I wrote a poem about this, but like basically talking about how TMI, like I love TMI, like I love when my friends tell me too much information, and I love that that's just like something we feel comfortable doing. Like, if your friends are sending you selfies when they're on the toilet, or they just told you like, something that they did that is R-rated, like I feel really cool about that, because I'm like, wow, you trust me enough to tell me when you're taking a shit. Like I feel great. But let me stop. But yeah, no.
If someone sent that to me, I would think you're one of those people who use their phone on the toilet. Gross.
I mean, doesn't the general population do, though?
I don't. Oh, well, I don't, because I think it's gross.
But then like, you can wipe it afterward. I mean, like,
they wipe themselves with their phone?
No! Oh my God. Can you imagine? No. Guys,
it's
like, no, but like,
yeah.
I mean, I know that like before, I didn't have a phone until like pretty late. Like I didn't have a phone until high school, and that was like rare for people my age, and like, I don't know, like what, you just read magazines on the toilet, right? Like that's what you do, right?
Shampoo bottles.
Yes, exactly. I'd be lying if I said I've never done it. And this is like the 2020 version of everybody poops. So this is what the podcast is becoming.
Oh no, in my case, I'm more focused on the task at hand. So I'm like, I try to be in and out so quickly, I don't have time to read anything.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's efficient, I guess.
I'm efficient, guys.
Like, imagine how much time you save in your life by now.
Opportunity cost, Gabby.
Exactly. Yes, this is the wisdom that you hold.
I need that time to do other shit. I need the time spent shitting to do other shit.
Exactly. And that's what happens, you know? What we need to like come up with a phrase instead of like stop and smell the roses, like stop and take a shit. Like, and that's specifically for you. Listen.
I think that's it.
Yes, exactly. Oh, if you think that I'm not going to use that, you are wrong. Yeah. That's going to be my new thing. But,
stop and smell your shit.
Yeah. Oh, take it a step further. I love that. We're being really creative today. Oh God.
Please let that be the title of your memoir.
Yes. Yeah.
Stop and smell your shit.
Honestly, though, it would be a bestseller, I'm sure. People would be so intrigued by that title, they wouldn't even like read the back of the book. They would just buy it. It's that good. I would buy.
Or we could. Or I'll take stop and take a shit. You take stop and smell your shit.
Okay.
There'll be companion memoirs.
Yes. And, okay. This is amazing. Listen, I'm going to start writing this down. I really think that that's a good idea, honestly. And the cover art could be like a flower, and then in the middle it would just be like a shit.
It'd be the emoji poo.
That's what I was thinking. Like a flower blossing, and then in the middle is just and then maybe like a bee coming to legit emoji. If that makes sense. Listen.
Well, I think do we have to end it at on that?
I mean, I don't think it's going to get much. I think we've peaked.
I think, yeah. I mean, there are times when like we end up podcasting someone, we end up ending on a thing. It's like that sounds like the best thing to end on.
Yeah.
Stop and take a shit, guys.
Yes.
Stop. If you just be kinder to yourself by stopping and then taking a shit.
Yes, exactly. If I'm going to be remembered for anything, I want it to be that. Like put that on my tombstone. Like. But
also, I think I wasn't expecting to get to talk about anything like that. So I think we have crossed the bridge.
Yes.
I think we're officially friends now.
Yes, we are. Of course we are. Come on. Not even up for debate. Like once
it's not the sending photos to each other of us on a toilet.
Yes.
It's the talking about our time being on the toilet or my lack thereof.
Yeah.
And trying to tell each other, hey, stop and take a shit.
Yes. And this all comes back to the beauty of TMI. Because if I had never said that, I mean, would we be here? We have to talk about TMI, guys. Come on. Like whoever is listening, embrace the TMI in your life. Like it's really just the best thing.
As long as you know you're not being, there's not a bug near you listening to, like the government's not listening in on you.
Yes. I mean,
if you're talking about taking a shit, that's not exactly sensitive information.
Yeah, they probably know by the time. They're like, no, this girl has nothing of quality to contribute to our research.
No, they've just been talking about taking shits for 3 hours. I don't.
Exactly.
At what point is there diminishing returns, and we should stop because we know they're not going to talk about anything of that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, this is a quality time, and I feel very, very good about myself knowing that some professors in the English department might be listening to this. And
how do you think they feel when they're like talking to me? and we're just joking around about nothing.
I don't know, but at least they probably feel respected, whereas I'm literally talking about bodily functions. And again, no shame in bodily functions. I wanna normalize that. But at the same time, this feels very unprofessional. And you know what? Screw professionalism.
I never said I had a professional operation going.
This is true, but I mean, I would rather have fun than be professional in this regard. Like I
Yes.
think that is that's the way to go.
All right, so let's wrap this up.
Yes.
Pickles.
Pickles, yes, of course.
Stuff about writing or something.
Yes.
Stop and take a shit.
Yes.
Fun over being professional.
Yes. Except like respect people's boundaries, though.
Yeah.
You know, got to do that. But yeah.
But well, it's been well over maybe nearly 2 hours, and
2 hours and 12 minutes.
Oh no, when I cut this down, it might not be 2 hours and 12 minutes, but
yeah.
It's I'm glad we got to talk, Gabi.
Me too.
And I guess based on the last 10-ish minutes, I'm presuming you had fun.
Yes, I did very much.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad we have all like more intellectual stuff established in the beginning, so that when they get to this part, they don't question our credibility. We
reel people in.
Yes. Yeah.
By being talking
big brain,
erudite.
Yeah.
And then we throw in all the toilet humor on the back on the back end.
Yeah, and that
on the back end.
Yeah, that was a good one. But listen, we contain multitudes. Okay, that's what it is. There are layers to us. But yes, thank you for having me. This was really such a bright spot to end this.
And if you would you be interested in say returning at a later date?
Oh yeah, for sure. Again, I will hop on a bus to Connecticut just to do it in person and get the full podcast experience.
Or, I mean, I'm willing to drive to Jersey.
Oh my God, you're so nice.
Even though it's Jersey. And
I know. But like, if it's any consolation, I live like 15 minutes from New York City. So like very North Jersey. We don't count Central and South because those are all the Trump supporters and we don't like that. But I think you'd like my town. Yeah. So.
All right. So, I mean, perhaps when that time comes.
Yes.
It will be post-COVID.
Yes, I hope
it'll be in the after times.
Yes.
So that we can actually see each other and perhaps have even more laugh out loud bullshitty moments.
Yes, I would love
about talking about sobbing and taking a shit.
Yes. Looking forward to it.
Well, again, thank you for being on.
Thanks for inviting me.
I hope. Oh wait.
Yes.
I feel like I'm setting up a plug, but I mean, it's not like you have things that are coming out that are being published now. No?
Right.
Or okay, maybe the next time the next time you're on, you'll have something that's being published.
Well, I do have a book if people want to buy it and support, but you know.
Okay, wait, what is it?
So it's a book of. Well, I did this because I was trying to raise money for grad school apps because I'm broke.
Oh, yeah.
And so I basically put together a collection of odes. And so most of them are just to like my friends and just things that like you don't really typically think to write odes about. So it's called Odes to Anything. And if you want to buy it, just like hit me up and, you know, we'll work something out. But yeah, so hopefully by the next time.
I've seen another bundle of pages with a cover that has your name on it.
Yes.
It's called like Party Tricks or something?
Yes. Oh, that is forthcoming. That is me manifesting my novel. And I use manifesting very loosely because I don't really like when people are like, I'm manifesting it. But I do believe in the power of like speaking things into existence. So yeah, that is hopefully going to be my novel or a collection of short stories. I haven't decided. But yeah, so that's exciting.
Well, I hope to read some of it.
Yes, of course.
Okay. And I think I had something else in mind. Wait, just one more thing.
Yes.
So when I was trying to contact you to be on the podcast.
Yes.
All previous correspondence, I spelled your name Gabby.
Yes. Yeah.
And then recently, I noticed you even responded with that, signing off your name spelled that way. But then you recently have been spelling it Gabi.
Yes. Okay. So here's the quick, like 60-second backstory maybe. So in Spanish, usually when things are abbreviated, it's always an I instead of a Y. And so I grew up with my abuela calling me Gabi, and like my family calling me Gabi with an I. And then when I got to middle school, my teachers would just call me Gabi, either B-Y or BBY. And at that point, like I've kind of always been ambivalent about my name. And so I was just like, it's fine. I'll just go with the flow. And then it just like stuck all through high school and college. And I actually just like told Dr. Grossberg like 2 weeks ago that it's like my friends call me Gabi as well, like with the BI. And
Gabi.
Yeah. Pretty much that's how my abuela says it. So yeah. And so, yeah, exactly. And so I felt really bad. Like, I feel like I was like lying to people. And I also just like, it's not that I was lying. It's just that, first of all, I don't really like, again, I'm very ambivalent about my name. Yeah. But doing that and like going back to that kind of made me feel better about my name, if that makes sense. So if you're listening to this and you've called me Gabi with a Y, it's totally fine. I don't care. If I've known you for years, it's like, it's fine.
I mean, it's not exactly noticeable spoken verbally.
Right.
Unless unless I were to like address you as in, hey, Gabi with a Y.
Yes, exactly. So, verbally it doesn't matter, but like written down, I just kind of, again, like I just really went with the flow. And this is like some of my professors would spell it with 2 B's or 1 B. And depending on the professor, like that's how I would sign it. Like whatever they called me first, I would just go with it. And so like, it's really like taking me like call me by your name to another level, but like, but yeah, so it's Gabi with an I, but also it's fine if you don't want to call me that.
I might call you Gabi with an I now.
Okay.
Literally the phrase Gabi with an I.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Gabi with an I.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that I find that's funny. Like there are some people, like I once knew a Dylan spelled with 2 L's.
Oh, okay.
I would literally walk up to him and be, hey, Dylan with 2 L's.
And like, it makes sense though, because, everyone just like spells it their own way. And I mean, again, that's totally fine. Like I'm not anyone who's going to, slit your throat for it, but like, but at the same time, like,
you heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
Gabi won't kill you over the spelling intention behind verbally greeting her.
Yes. But I mean, I do feel bad. Like there were some friends that I've known for maybe like a decade, and that when I told them, they were like, I am so sorry that I like didn't ask how you wanted it spelled. And I was like, you know what, you probably did. And I just said, whatever, like, like, I don't remember that far back, but yeah. So I was just like, yeah, it's actually Gabi with an I. And I felt so bad. And so,
Gabi.
Yeah.
Gabi.
Yeah. And again, like the explanation, I feel like once I explain it to people, they'll understand. But again, I feel really bad.
Don't feel bad, Gabi. Gabi with an I. You live, you learn. Pickles, writing, stop, take a shit.
Gabi with an I.
Gabi with an I.
And
what's the other? Wait. What was like the best time was before the next best time is now or something like that?
Yes, that exactly.
Yeah, okay, we got it.
Got it. Wrap it up. Sorry. But there's like no good way to end it when you're actually like having a good conversation with someone and you don't want it to end. So like, you are the master of editing, so you're gonna have to find a really like.
Well, I just made a long podcast longer, but so like what felt like 10 minutes after I originally thank you for being on the podcast. Gabi with an I. Gabi with an I. Gabriella, quote in quotes, Gabi with an I.
Yes.
End quote, Navas.
Yes, exactly.
Which that's how in the show notes. That's how I'll address you.
Yeah,
how I introduce you.
The full title, some respect on my name.
Gabriella, open quote,
Yes.
Gabi with an I, end quote.
Yes.
Navas.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yes, I will definitely be back if you'll have me, because this was really, really fun, and you're awesome to talk to, and I'm glad we're friends.
And now, I'm also now glad that we are officially friends, yes. And this feels like Conan O'Brien has a podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Oh my God.
I feel like this is turning into Benson Needs a Friend.
You've got one. Should I break out into song "You've Got a Friend in Me"? Because I would. No, I won't. But that would have been the perfect time.
What we should do is afterward, like I learn the song, I play it on my guitar or whatever, send it to you. Then you record your vocal over it, and then we tag it on to the end of the podcast.
Yes, for sure. It'll just be like an ode to taking a shit. I need to stop. But again, great to be here.
Great. It's great talking to you, Gabi, and I. And again, I hope we can do this again sometime later.
Yes.
Perhaps in the after times.
Or in the afterlife, as you said to Kira. But we're going to stay alive for now, I think.
Yeah.
That's another lesson. Don't take fiction as memoir, because I didn't try to kill myself. But
know what you're reading.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I'm bad at goodbyes. So if you want to take it from here.
Well, thank you so much, Gabi. I'm glad to have gained a friend and to be able to call you a friend.
The feeling is so mutual, Benson. Thank you for having me.
And goodbye.
All right, bye.
Nice talking to you, Gabi.
Yeah, it was really nice.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Do I close out? I don't even know what to do. Do I close out the Zencaster?
Do not close that yet.
Okay.
I haven't stopped recording.
All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Seconds are moving. I know how time works.
Good outtake.